Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. RBI Governor defends the crackdown on Paytm, says sufficient time was given to the company and the supervisory action was taken due to lack of corrective measures. The Governor says the restrictions imposed are proportional to the gravity of the situation. KYC just one of the many issues at Paytm. The Monetary Policy Committee leaves key rates and stance unchanged. The Governor says interest rate transmission is not complete yet, asserts that inflation needs to temper sustainably below the 4% target, expects GDP growth rate of 7% in FY25. Bank stocks slide after the RBI status quo policy. The Sensex and the Nifty decline over 1%, even as mid-caps outperform, ending marginally in the red. The Congress releases a black paper ahead of the BJP government's white paper on the economic mismanagement during the UPA rule, calls it a charge sheet of the BJP's injustice during its decade-long tenure. Prime Minister Modi takes a jibe at the Congress, refers to the black paper as Kala Tika for the good work done by his government. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejects a ceasefire proposal from Hamas, calling the terms delusional. Netanyahu orders troops to enter the overcrowded city of Rafah. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken in Israel believes a ceasefire deal is still possible. Zomato beats estimates in Q3, reports consolidated net profit of 138 crore rupees against losses of over 340 crores in the same period last year. Revenue up 79%. After posting losses for the fourth straight quarter, SoftBank is back in the black. A rally in tech stocks helps the Vision Fund gain $4 billion, its biggest in nearly 3 years. Private equity giant Advent, bullish on India, hopes to deploy $5 to $10 billion over the next 5 years, identifies financial services, tech and healthcare as the key sectors. Mobile phone and internet services suspended across Pakistan as the country votes a day after 30 people were killed in bomb blasts. More incidents of violence reported from parts of the country, with Imran Khan disqualified. Nawaz Sharif's party could emerge as the single largest. And Parliament bids farewell to former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh as he retires from the Rajya Sabha. Prime Minister Modi lauds Manmohan Singh's contribution to India's politics and economy. Well, the top story this evening, no surprises from the Monetary Policy Committee as key rates were left unchanged as the CNBC-TV18 poll had suggested. Now, the RBI has also maintained its stance at withdrawal of accommodation, with the Governor saying that interest rate transmission is not complete yet. The Governor also asserted that inflation needs to temper sustainably below the target of 4%. For the upcoming financial year, the RBI expects inflation to decline gradually to 4.5%. The inflation forecast for the current quarter has been scaled down to 5%. The RBI remains upbeat on growth, has estimated 7% growth rate for FY25. It's upgraded its forecast for the first 3 quarters of the upcoming financial year. The Governor's press conference after the policy, though, was largely dominated by questions around the crackdown on Paytm Payments Bank. The Governor defended the restrictions that have been imposed, calling them proportionate to the gravity of the situation. The Governor also said that the company was given ample time for corrective measures, adding that KYC was just one of the many issues at Paytm. Take a look at the Governor's response.
There is no worry about the system at the moment. Here we are talking about a specific institution, a specific payment bank. Our emphasis is always on bilateral engagement with the regulated entities, with focus on nudging them for corrective action. And sufficient time is given for undertaking such corrective action. The third point, when such constructive engagement which we undertake, when that does not work, so when such constructive engagement does not work, or when the regulated entity does not take effective action, we go for imposing supervisory or business restrictions. Number 4, such restrictions which we impose are always proportionate to the gravity of the situation. Let me stress and let me emphatically state that the Reserve Bank is and will continue to encourage and support innovation and technology in the financial sector. Let there not be any doubt about Reserve Bank's commitment to promote fintechs, to promote innovation, to promote technology in the financial system. It is not a case of where there was a regulatory deficiency or there was a regulatory correction required. It's an issue of compliance. Compliance with various parameters. You mentioned about KYC, but compliance with so many aspects. Again, let me not specify the details. So regulations are there, regulations are robust, and it's a situation where we are focused on the compliance not being there with the regulatory requirements.
Well, that is RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das. Ritu joins us now. Ritu, it turned out to be a press conference about Paytm and not the MPC as much. But the RBI and the governor specifically very clearly articulating what has gone wrong and why the action has been taken. For the benefit of our viewers, Ritu, sum up the arguments being presented by the RBI for the action taken, the supervisory action taken against Paytm.
Well, importantly, this is the very first time you have the Reserve Bank of India publicly addressing the issue around Paytm Payment Bank since that small notification on the 31st of January, now making it clear that the action was taken only after repeated warnings which Paytm Bank failed to address. Now, as a caveat, the governor did say that RBI does not comment on specific entities and was only making general observations about all regulated entities, which includes Paytm Bank, to give an insight into what led to this crackdown. Now, the governor read that 7-point statement in this matter, and to start with, he said RBI had significantly deepened its supervisory system, its approach and methods over the last few years, and that the emphasis has always been on a two-way bilateral engagement with financial entities with a focus on nudging them to take the corrective action. And it is only after giving them sufficient time, when these entities still fail to take effective remedies, only then does RBI impose supervisory or business restrictions. And importantly, to all of those who have been questioning what could have caused such a severe reaction from RBI, the governor making it clear that restrictions imposed by the regulator are always proportionate to the gravity of the situation. Now, during the course of the press conference, you also had RBI allude to the fact that there were grave issues of compliance, not just deficiency, and not just on KYC, but several other fronts as well. Governor Das making it very clear that such actions are not taken lightly by the regulator and they are responsible, and ultimately all of these actions are driven keeping in mind the depositor's interest and to maintain financial stability. For the common man who may have queries about what happens next now, can they use their Paytm wallet, can they use the app to make UPI transactions? All of these questions are going to be addressed by the RBI in an FAQ that is going to be released soon. And lastly, in no uncertain terms, because of criticism from certain quarters, RBI also wanted to send out the message that such instances should not raise any doubt about its commitment of promoting fintechs and technological innovation in the financial sector.
Well, Ritu, many thanks for joining us. Yes, that's the big story there coming in from the MPC today, not linked to the MPC, but more on Paytm and the regulatory action against Paytm Payments Bank. Latha joins us now with her take on the RBI policy. Latha, status quo on rates and no change in stance as well. The big takeaway for you from the MPC?
Well, the key takeaway from the policy is that the markets, equity markets in particular, probably went into the policy expecting some kind of dovishness, which was not there. The policy was not hawkish, but it was not dovish either. And I think the main takeaway was that the market was expecting that they will hint about a change of stance maybe in April. That hint was not there. The Reserve Bank actually cut inflation forecast for the current quarter from 5.2 to 5. Even for the next quarter, April, May, June, the original forecast was 5.2. They brought it down to 5. But they are absolutely mum on the change in stance. In fact, the governor said that they are not changing the stance from withdrawal of accommodation because all the rate hikes have not been transmitted and inflation is still not aligned to 4%. Now, inflation not at 4% is an old reason, but this all rate hikes not transmitted seems to have suddenly rattled the market because that means they're expecting more hikes. My own interpretation is that the governor was just giving an excuse to stick with the stance. And the governor knows, like anyone else, that all rate hikes don't get transmitted because there's competition among banks for lending, and therefore one bank may undercut another. The key lesson, the key takeaway is that the central bank itself probably has not made up its mind on when it will change its stance. It is data dependent, it is event dependent. It will probably wait for the monsoon forecast etc., before it speaks about a stance change. The takeaway was very positive for bond markets because the RBI almost gave it away that they will very actively manage liquidity. They said that they will use all their instruments that they have, repo and reverse repo, to manage liquidity, which is created by exogenous factors, they said, which means the government not spending. So there is a bit of an assurance for the bond markets that the call rate will not be at 6.75, but will be at 6.5, which is a very important giveaway or important takeaway for the bond markets. Finally, of course, on Paytm, the governor was very clear that their action was proportionate to the lack of compliance from the regulated entity. That answered all doubts about whether they had overreacted. They also, of course, proactively promised that they're not against innovation and, in fact, would welcome it. An FAQ is coming, which will perhaps answer consumer and investor queries.
All right, Lata, many thanks. And you can watch our special broadcast on the RBI monetary policy that's coming up for you at 5 p.m. here on CNBC-TV18. Let's talk markets now. The Sensex and the Nifty ending the day with cuts after the RBI status quo policy failed to boost market sentiment. Bank stocks fell 2%, mid-cap index closing lower but relatively outperformed compared to other indices. Equity mutual fund inflows sharply higher for the month of January, coming in at 21,700 crore rupees, with over 6,000 crores mobilized via NFOs. Inflows into small caps continue to rise, with most of the large caps also seeing sizable interest after several months. Now, the SIP contribution for the month has hit a record high of over 18,000 crores. So that's strong data there coming in for mutual funds. And speaking of strong numbers, in key earnings, food delivery platform Zomato posting a consolidated net profit of 138 crore rupees in Q3 versus a loss of over 340 crores in the same period last year. Consolidated revenue up 80% and margins grew at 1.5%. Quick commerce revenue more than doubled to over 660 crore rupees. Strong earnings there coming in for Zomato. FMCG giant ITC's largest shareholder, BAT, also known as British American Tobacco, has said it is working towards selling some of its stake in the company. Currently, BAT holds 29% stake in ITC, worth 1.5 lakh crore rupees. In an earnings release, the company says that its significant shareholding in ITC offers an opportunity to release and reallocate some capital. US private equity firm Advent is looking to pump up to $10 billion in the Indian market over the next 5 years. The company believes that India is one of the world's most attractive investment hubs and sees growth opportunities in the country. Here's Advent's management speaking with CNBC-TV18's Nisha Poddar on their India plans.
We said last time we met that we'd have a target. We actually exceeded that target very significantly. We said, I think, about 1.7 billion, and we did about 4.4 in the end. For the next 5 years, we would like to commit something like $5 to $10 billion here in India. So a very significant growth, but that reflects, the prospects that we see in this market.
Well, that's Advent on India. In global earnings, Japan SoftBank returned to profit after 5 quarters, boosted by a rise in value of its tech investments. Quarterly profits stood at $6 billion compared to a loss of nearly the same amount in the corresponding period last year. The profit was driven by gains in the company's Vision Fund. Japanese automaker Honda posting strong performance in the quarter ended December. Net profit up 3.5% year-on-year. Quarterly sales up 21%. This was on the back of strong demand coming in from the US and Europe. A favorable exchange rate has also helped amplify Honda's overseas profits in yen terms. This is expected to continue through the rest of the fiscal year. Airbus has entered into a partnership with Bengaluru-based Dynamatic Technologies to manufacture A220 aircraft doors. This is the French aviation giant's biggest pact of such a type in India. Remember, Tata Advanced Technologies already makes doors for the Airbus A320 aircraft. Airbus is hoping to double its sourcing of aircraft components from India to $1.5 billion in the next few years. We will head into a break, but up next, mobile phone and internet services stand suspended across Pakistan as the country votes a day after 30 people were killed in bomb blasts. That and more when we return. The Congress has released a black paper ahead of the BJP government's white paper on the state of the economy during the UPA rule. The Congress has called its document a charge sheet of the BJP's injustice during its decade-long tenure. The Congress criticised the government on the jobs front, also alleged that laws implemented by the BJP have caused further distress to farmers. Prime Minister Modi took a jibe at the Congress, referred to the black paper as a kala tika for the good work done by his government. Parliament bids farewell to former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh as he retires from the Rajya Sabha. Prime Minister Modi lauded former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's contribution to India's politics and the economy. He called him a guiding light for budding politicians.
माननीय डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी का स्मरण करना चाहूंगा। 6 बार इस सदन में वो अपने मूल्यवान विचारों से और नेता के रूप में भी और प्रतिपक्ष में भी नेता के रूप में उनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है।
2004 और 14 का जो कार्यकाल था मनमोहन सिंह जी का, वो बहुत ही अच्छा था। उन्होंने अच्छी काम की। इसकी जो सालाना या उसकी जो तारीफ की, उसी लिए मैं आपको धन्यवाद देता हूं। ऐसी ही चलती रहे। जो अच्छे काम होते उसकी तारीफ करो, जो कमियां होती हैं वो गिनते जाओ।
Well, end of an era with former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh retiring from the Rajya Sabha. Pakistan is voting for a new parliament amidst incidents of violence across the country. Connectivity blackout and widespread crackdown on Imran Khan's party PTI. At least 5 people have been killed in militant attacks today. 2 bomb blasts rocked Balochistan, killing at least 30 people yesterday. The caretaker government has suspended internet and phone services nationwide, citing security reasons. Close to 18,000 candidates are in the fray for the National Assembly and the provincial assemblies. There are 167 registered political parties in Pakistan. So who are the key contenders? 3-time Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's party is expected to emerge as the single largest party. Sharif, who just returned from exile, is eyeing a majority. Bilawal Bhutto, who heads Pakistan's People's Party, is another top contender. Both the PPP and the PML. Nawaz Sharif, despite being traditional rivals, had formed a coalition government after Imran Khan's ouster. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been banned from contesting because of multiple convictions. The Election Commission had earlier locked his party symbol on the grounds that they did not conduct intra-party elections. However, he still remains a key contender, with his party candidates contesting independently. Well, moving on now. It is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18.